Oh, hey everybody. How's it going? Make sure volume is up. Welcome to Two Thangs Talking Thangs. And even has Two Thangs Talking Thangs with two tacos. Look at these bad boy carne asada little gems from a little Olneyville institution called La Lupita, who is I have heard good things about, and I decided to try today. I'll go red sauce first. Oh shit, Scott's already here. Up on it. Very nice. Yo, dude, how's it going?
What up, my man? How you doing?
Doing good. Got my
Oh, I'm so
tacos.
jealous of these tacos you got.
Oh man, they're good. This is like probably the best carne asada I've had in town. Um, this place is bomb. It had a nice mural in it too. I hadn't been in there before.
Nice. What's
A
it
couple
called?
of like La Lupita.
La Lupita. I like it.
What does that mean?
The little Lupe.
Oh, that's easy. They had a couple of like kind of big Aztec eagles kind of like doing battle above the beneath the script. I was like, oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. Nothing makes you hungrier than seeing two eagle warriors battling it out.
Yeah. So I went down there today. I've heard like a lot of good things about their burritos. So I got one of those, a carnitas burrito that was really bomb. And then I got a couple carne asada tacos. I feel like that's a good starting point with any institution. You try the carnitas. If that's good, you try the carne asada, as long as that's not ground beef, which is always like, oh boy.
Wait, what? I've never heard of such a thing.
Oh, it's horrible. It's a terrible trick. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. The sun was out today in Seattle. The snow melted. We're doing well over here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still nice and cold over in Rhode Island.
Wasn't too bad today. We got a lot of the snow melted. We've had like probably 3 snowstorms over the last couple weeks. So this is my first like New England winter as it was kind of that's lived up to the hype. The first 2 were kind of I mean they got cold, but it wasn't really snowy.
Okay.
I mean I'm not complaining. 1 or 2 snows is fine.
Right.
And then this time we got snow coming tomorrow. It's like kind of like every other 4 days the snowstorm blows through. So it's not too bad though. We've only had to shovel a couple of times, and yeah, it's pretty good. I'm definitely addicted.
Weird. Yeah. If you remember that one time we went out to visit you, you just got dumped on in Boston.
That's right. Yeah, you guys were right out, and that was like the only one that year, but it was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. My memory of, or like that put the impression in my head that that's what it's like the entire winter though now, you know?
Yeah. It's not at all either.
What do they call that? A confirmation bias?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, did
It's
you
like
go,
you
did you go
actually.
güerito on me? Did you dye your hair blonde?
I wish. I mean, this is just the old man coming through.
I see. It's kind of cut it. I thought I saw a highlight there for a second.
Oh, that's just a natural highlight. I'm just, that kind of guy. Coming in with the gray streaks. But it is long enough. I back in 2019, even before pandemic hit, I kind of was like I don't know. I was just thinking about like I've had the same haircut since probably college. I think I got that haircut in college, and I was like, it was a long time to have one haircut. I like it; it's a solid cut, but I mean, I should do something else. So I started thinking like, okay, what the fuck else do you do with hair? I was like, I've still got it, so might as well try long hair once. And I was like, what do I want to do with long hair? And I'm gonna do eventually. Actually, I think it's long enough now that I can do it if I can get a haircut in. But I'm going to do like 70s fucking dude, like a muscle car, like feathery, kind of wavy locks.
Joe Dirt. I'm not too far off.
Oh yeah, look at that. You got a little mullet going.
That was a product of in the early stages of quarantine. I would like shave my beard, and then this just got bushier and bushier. And then one day I was like, I can't do it. So I just like did the part I could see in the mirror, and I didn't trust myself to the back. And I went to the barber, and I was like, I'm kind of loving this like mullet thing. And he's like, yeah, let's just go with it. So I've been cutting it like that ever since.
Yeah, I mean, you're working it, man. I think now is the time to try new shit, especially if we're not going anywhere. See if it fits.
Yeah. Well, and I have like corporate clients, so in the past I might have thought about that. But now it's like they only ever see me like this, so it's all business this way. They never see the party in the back, you know?
I think mullets are a bit chic now too. I think you can run with it. If anything, they're just gonna think you're like hipster-ish, which I don't think anybody's gonna go graphic design for a winery and they have some hipster.
I'm afraid somebody's gonna think I'm like a Seattle Mariner or something, you know?
Totally baseball players, man.
The Bautista.
Yeah. Tell everybody. So everybody who doesn't know, this is Scott. He is a Seattle painter, teacher, graphic designer, student, activist. I want to say, like, you got a big bag of tricks you're kind of going through right now.
Yeah. So I'm actually a master's candidate in socially engaged art practice, and I feel like that's really the umbrella that pulls all these things together. So there's it's a field where it's part activism, it's part community work, and then it's art practice as well. So it's been really cool, like meeting a lot of people who are in that same field, who are kind of working in similar way, and like realizing that there's actually a collection of us that all move this way as creative people.
And what is that under? Like, what is that program under as far as college?
I'm through Prescott College in Arizona, but the faculty are all based in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was created by Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Cullors, and she created an art space called the Crenshaw Dairy Mart in Inglewood, California. And so that's where kind of the home base of the program is, but then everybody's everywhere. So
I'm thinking, I just saw an artist I know on his Instagram was at the Q Mart or the G Mart. It's like a runoff of the one in Santa Fe, the like giant art installation.
Oh, yeah.
This one's more like supermarket based. Yeah, so it's like copy of that, and I think it's in California somewhere, but it's something Mart. That's not the same thing.
Yeah. Is it? I assume maybe you enter in through like a grocery store kind of thing, and then going through a freezer or something.
Exactly, that's the one I saw. There's like all like they legit made thousands of fake products that are all crazy art things, and then you go through a freezer. It's exactly like it's real cool though. I'm like, oh, got it. That's pretty neat stuff going on.
Yeah, I think this is like it's pretty tangential, but like one of my like learnings during quarantine has been that like growing up, I always thought supermarket sweep was like an actual grocery store. Like I always just thought they rolled in a camera crew to like your local Albertsons and then started filming. But like now that it's on Netflix and having watched it, I'm like, wow, there's just this like enormous grocery store with like food that's probably all going to a dumpster when the show's over. But anyways, I like the idea of this G-Mart kind of gives me a little bit of supermarket sweep vibes.
Very much so. It's pretty cool. The artist is Casey Weldon, who is a Seattle artist. Good dude. He's the one who runs Drunk. And I saw him hanging out there the other day, posting crazy videos, just like everybody does at the Santa Fe one, where you're just like, whoa. Yeah, no. I'm glad that kind of seems like it's taken off for those people. But anyways,
Is it out in California?
The what?
Where's it at? Where's it located?
I think it's in California. That's why when you said that, I was like, oh, that's not the same thing, though. Immediately.
No, it's the Crenshaw Dairy Mart because they wanted to kind of have like a lower impact in the neighborhood, and they took over like essentially like a bodega that was at one point called the Crenshaw Dairy Mart. So they just kind of like went with it.
That's cool. Now, this is all virtual, I'm assuming. Was the plan to go down there at some point if we weren't in a pandemic?
Yeah, so like God willing, it's still going to end in a residency down there in Los Angeles. So that's kind of like the structure of the program was always designed to be remote. And I had learned about this program in January of 2020, and I was like, I don't know, like, is an online education really like going to be something that people value? And then it was like by May, I was like, yeah, this is the program for me.
How's it been doing it virtually? Has it just been kind of everything you'd wanted it to be?
Yeah, actually, it's I think there's some real positives to it. One of it is that like it's a much more broad range of people that can come to a program like that because the barriers are lower. It's cheaper. If you're a working professional, it's designed around that, and it would be hard to have a like in-person program that was like that. And then the other thing too is I just feel like, if you're a tenured professor at a college and you're showing up to work every day, you might like kind of just go through the motions a little more. And I feel like I get a lot more like one-on-one attention because when you show up to like interact with someone, there's like more effort needs to go into that. So I feel like I kind of reap the benefit of people who are showing up really present to like support me in what I'm doing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I've been talking to my sister who is just doing her undergrad for, I think she's like poli-sci and philosophy double major or something like that. But like she's having a hard time because it's like that's when you really want that college experience of socializing, partying, like the whole deal. So like she like feels bummed and cheated on the whole thing, and I totally get that. But it's good to hear that like the higher level classes where you're not in that zone anymore, the socializing. I mean, it's good. You're making connections, but like you're trying there to really push yourself and have people push you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like, I feel like it's like really kind of embodies what the art world is now. Like having connections in like all these different cities that I wouldn't have had connections in. Like just even like having to like show your art digitally to other people and just like that being the first touch point they have with your work. It really feels like that's what happens as any artist. That's what you do. Most of us, we have to put our work out into digital space. So to start from that point, instead of having to like be in in a program somewhere and then translate that into a digital space, I think there's like an interesting learning that's happening there.
It's very true. I'm working on these giant paintings for the first time since I started doing two things, and like the physicality of them is, a big painting is impressive. Like you can't fuck around with it because it's got to be priced really expensively, like all these other things. But it also just has this presence of like, oh, this person's not doodling, which is like
right.
for whatever reason when you like do a show of 15 drawings or sketches or something, people are just like not taking it too seriously. But if it's a giant fucking painting, they have to like investigate. But does that even matter anymore? Like, is that presence going to come through? These kind of things that we all have to deal with, because most of the people that are going to see my stuff are just going to see a fucking 3x3 JPEG as they scroll past on Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting, like teaching online. I noticed like my students, they will make like really, really highly detailed things that are kind of like, what's interesting to me is like, there's no analog version of this, because in digital space, you can zoom in and like see, like, like it might be the catch light and somebody's eye has this whole little world happening inside of it. And they're drawing knowing that you can zoom in and see all that detail and stuff. I don't know what to make of all this yet, but it's like there's clearly a paradigm that's shifting in how we make art and how it lives. And I'm excited to see where it all goes.
I know, and that's the fun thing is it's just like we're seeing it unfold. and we've been watching it unfold for a long time. And I think a lot of us that are probably, doing the best and not becoming just bitter old people are like enjoying, like, okay, I don't know what comes next, but I'm seeing how people are dealing with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I also hear the people who are afraid of it. It's hard for me to be afraid of something I don't know, you know? The only
yeah,
reason I would be afraid of it is because I don't know about it, and that doesn't seem like a good enough reason.
yeah.
So tell me, are you at liberty to tell me more about these big paintings? I'm dying to know.
Oh yeah, so I just finished one today, which is the one I've been kind of posting stuff from, which is the Twin Peaks Bob's Burgers painting.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, I
I
had no
just
idea
finished
the
it up.
scale of those. I thought they were like your kind of the scale you normally work in.
Oh yeah, no, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna have to figure out how to translate is like these are 4 by 6 feet paintings, so they're big, and I mean it's been great like to get back to that, being able to really apply a lot of like the stuff I've been working on, the stuff I've been thinking about, and like get like so much detail without feeling like when I'm working on a 20 by 24-inch painting, I feel like it can just get too busy, like as I'm trying to fit all the stuff I want to fit in there, it can just get too busy. But with this, there's just so much more room that I don't feel like that.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but then the other one is then both of them are from my Patreon sketch contest last time. And the other one is Polly Walnuts and Pez. And I've been working on that one today, and it's coming out really awesome. So pretty stoked.
Nice, nice. And do they have a home, or you're just doing them to do them?
Just I knew business slows down so much this time of year as taxes are due and Christmas is over, and so I knew I had a little break, and I was like, okay, I want to work big. My plan is in like 22, I want to have shows. I want to do. I mean, I like set up my business so that I wouldn't have to be a part of the gallery scene. But I think, as you understand, anytime you come up through a BFA program or just come up in any sort of art program, you're always going to have that little itch, Like,
Yeah,
I hate that whole scene. I hated it when I did it before, of like the you know, it's the art. You go to the opening and you have to talk to the rich people, and there's like the art buyers, and they're snobby and assholes, and there's the gallery owners who are they can be a lot better, but they're still very entrenched in that game. And that's a lot of the reason I started Two Things is like I don't want to sell my art to them. I'd rather sell my art to anybody that I can just have a regular conversation with.
yeah.
But I'm always probably gonna have that itch of like, why not? I'm good enough. I could be in a gallery.
It's no different than like if anyone who grew up buying CDs and like starts a band, like at some point you just want that thing you can hold, because it's like in you. Even though that like nowadays it's like, I was looking for a CD for your jukebox the other day, and I'm like, where am I going to find a CD? And just thank God my girlfriend drives a '98 Corolla, so she had one in the car. But like, things change, but I feel what you're saying, that it is in you, it is in us to like that. I think it's just a platform of having people in a space experiencing the work and being really like present with it, which doesn't happen in a trade show or a tattoo convention or the other places that you're exhibiting your work.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Is like I do think how I go about my work is I'm trying to paint dumb things, but paint them interestingly. And the thought is that like if I take down the barrier between what obstructs many people from appreciating art, which is the which doesn't really matter in most art. Like as you talk to a painter, what they're painting doesn't really matter that much, but they want it to be obtuse because it kind of says something about like the audience they're going for.
Right.
Is like they want the general public to be kind of off-put by it. I'm trying to remove that so that anybody will be like, oh, I just like it because it's Polly Walnuts and Pez, and I really love Sopranos. but as they look at it more, they develop more of appreciation for like the way I crafted the images. But I don't ever get to see any of that unfold. Like if it happens, as people sit with my paintings for years and years, and I hope they do start to see that I did things in interesting ways. I don't ever really hear about that. So I think maybe that's part of it too. You're right. It's like the gallery, that's all people are looking at is the way you painted the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm glad that you are moving towards that, because I feel like what Two Things has a place in the conversation about art. And like right now there's like, I just heard about an artist who, I forget who it was, but a pretty high profile artist who they're now like changing the way they're selling paintings. So when they sell a painting, every time that painting changes hands, they get a royalty on it, which is like going to screw up the traditional market.
Yeah.
I mean, not screw up in a bad way, screw up like the artist will actually be compensated
That
at
is
all these different points.
that is exactly how it should be too.
Exactly how it should be. I mean, I once heard the art market described as the world's largest unregulated commodities market, and it's so true.
Oh yeah.
And, I think what you've been able to do in like owning the means of production from start to finish and really like making it a more democratic process, like I feel like that's part of a big conversation that's happening with a lot of artists. Like for example, like socially engaged practice art, I think what draws me to it is there's a realness to it, and there's like it's about engaging communities that don't have access to art. And I feel like that's what you've done with your work, is you've brought in people who might, for lots of reasons, not have access to that world. And I think, you've especially taken away like the pretense, which is such an enormous barrier to the art world. So I'm glad that I think when you're in a gallery, it opens those conversations for people who are like living behind that wall of pretense.
I appreciate it, man. I think so too. I think I think I like my what is it? I'm forgetting the word, but I like the way things are headed, and I don't think I foresaw that when I started with the idea. And it's just like over the last almost 6 years now, it's just like I kept thinking. I don't think I've ever been focused on a single idea for this long before in my artistic career. But the idea itself, I've been able to just really think about what I want to get out of it, and that's been great as far as just having trajectory. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. No,
it's been good, and it's
when you embarked on this journey, it was like, I don't know, like if I can make it a year, like success. Yeah. And like a year was what, 5 years ago? Like
it's crazy. But it's been good. I still feel like it's all going to fall apart at any minute. So I'm never able to really like, celebrate success, because it never feels like I get it. In a lot of ways, I'm very successful. I've been able to earn a living in the arts for as long as I have. That's like doesn't happen to a lot of people. But on the other part, it's just constant, especially like right now when no work's coming in. Just always feels like it's about to fall apart.
Yeah. There's a photographer, a Chicano photographer named Esteban Orial, who's like a famous. He used to shoot for like Vibe magazine back in the day, and shot a lot of really iconic shots of Dre and Eminem and a lot of West Coast people. And I remember seeing an interview with him that like pretty early in my career, where he's like, man, people talk about being unemployed. He's like, every day, the second the photo shoot ends, I'm unemployed. Like I have to start on my next hustle the day whatever project I'm working on comes to an end. And it's like, that's just been the reality for so many creative people for so long. And yeah, I think you learn to have a little bit of faith that things will work out, Yeah.
So where are you? So are you teaching as part of your master's program, or are you still engaged?
So I teach at, so like right now I'm teaching a class at Coyote Central and a teen art studio. So I almost exclusively work with teenagers, and have for about 10 years now. And so I'm teaching at Gage and Coyote Central. I'll be teaching at Pratt in the summer. I often do work with urban artwork, so I'm sure there's something down the pipe with those guys. That's one of my favorite organizations. Um,
Yeah.
but for me, you know, like you know, I think I met you, Matt, when I was in the atelier. So I was in a classical painting program, and I really loved learning technique, but there was kind of I didn't know what to do with it. And in that process, I learned that I also love teaching technique. And it's really like in the last year or two that like suddenly I'm starting to realize like, oh, this teaching is part of my creative practice. Like this is who I am as an artist is like transferring these skills and like empowering young people. And like the teaching is really the like way into just like being a mentor and being in the community and like trying to like Jesus Christ, this world's so tough sometimes. And just
Yeah.
like I feel really empowered knowing that like I don't know, I did some small thing to make that not the situation, you know. I don't want to like inflate what it is, but I also think sometimes if you do something small, it's enormous.
I agree 1000%. I don't think you're inflating at all, man. It's important. As someone who had horrible art teachers, growing up, and then went to college and studied next to an art ed degree kind of path for people that were people that never learned art. They just learned how to teach. I think like if you, especially doing that is such great work to actually teach people art that rather than just I kind of can do a little bit and I know how to teach. I think it's really important. And I think it's great because I mean that's what kids need and able to like really push things to the next level.
Yeah, I just, you know, for me, I think I remember myself at that age being so hungry for like I could just feel these like little glass ceilings I would hit in my skill set, and I just wanted to get on the other side of it. And I would look at people who I admired, or I'd look at, you know, like oh, I don't know, I'd be like reading like aliens comic books or something, just be like, how this is magic to me. How do I do this? And feeling really stuck. So you know, to be able to work with young people and like get them to a pretty high level of skill is, I don't know, it just feels like my teenage self is always like rewarded by seeing them get what I wanted so badly at that age. You know, not to mention, I just think, you know, a lot of my work anymore, like I love when a student comes to me and they want to learn a lot of skills, but also if they don't, like if they're safe, you know, if they're in a
Yeah.
position where like they're being seen and heard and like there's an opportunity for them to like tap into like a creative part of themselves, which especially like working with traumatized kids, that can come really shut off. And if I can help them like find that a little bit, like I'm done, man. That's like a huge raging success for me.
Yeah. I I think also like you were talking about traditional skills that you teach. I think on the path, at least for me as an artist, I had to learn those. I don't know that I use them as much, but like it was like an itch that needed to be scratched before I could find myself. Is to like develop this skill set where I can pull it out of the tank if I need it. So I
Yeah,
think if you get that done early, you're able to really go in whatever direction you want, even if you don't even need it. I don't know. I go back and forth on this whole thing because sometimes I do feel like there is like a Francis Bacon kind of thing where if you learn one way of doing it, you're automatically kind of shutting yourself off in a lot of ways to maybe like if you come to a path and you can go A or B, you're going to pick one of those because you learned that. But there is like C of just walking off into the woods. And sometimes occasionally the lottery of that just works.
yeah,
Like someone's just like, I didn't even like the RZA is a great example. Like the early Wu-Tang albums are like horrible from a technical production standpoint or anything like that. But because he didn't even know the rules, like he didn't even know he was breaking them.
yeah,
you know?
yeah, totally, totally.
And some like, but that is such a rare thing. I think most times, good artists come from learning some fundamentals and then taking whatever direction they want to.
Yeah. I mean, I always kind of teach my kids like, for me, it's like any musician learns scales at some point, or not any. I mean, you just named a really good example, but often a musician learning an instrument will just like do scales, and it's not fun. It's not, the thing, but like at some point you may never do a scale again in your musical career, but it's in you and you know how to do it. And I feel like, yeah, to your point, like if I was like, hey Matt, draw Seattle with Godzilla in it, you'd be like, oh man, now I got to draw like a bunch of 3-point perspective that like I haven't thought about 3-point perspective in 20 years, but I know how to do it, so I can do it. Which is like when you're a teenager, you're like, why does this building look so stupid? Like I can't get it to look right. And it's because you haven't learned 3-point perspective yet.
God, I just did one this Christmas that was like all 3-point perspective, and I drove myself crazy with it trying to get it right.
Yeah.
I think I did, but I was like, oh my God, I hate this.
I have a dream class I want to teach where, the Columbia Tower in Seattle, downtown Seattle?
Yeah.
It's like an observation level.
Uh-huh.
Where you can just like go there. I want to teach a perspective class from that room.
Oh, man.
Where you would be like looking down on all the buildings in 3-point perspective, which is like how I feel like most people teach 3-point perspective.
Yeah. It's true. You need that distance to really like do it, but then you get from that you like get caught. That was what mine was, like basically like a drone view of like cityscapes and stuff, and I was like, oh God, all these lines everywhere, just shut up lines. Like I'm sick of you.
Right. Too funny.
So is that age group, you think, is that like, you're like, this is the jam, this is where I want them? It's just like where you're starting to just even figure out like what art is, you're like starting to actually think about it?
Yeah, I think for me, so through Bainbridge Island Art Museum, I often teach like an open program that is attended by a lot of like really young kids. And like, just for me as like somebody who exists in life as an uncle, like I love working with, like 0 to 12-year-olds also. But I feel like the difference I see between working with teenagers and like, so for example, I've been doing Zoom classes with my nieces during quarantine, and which has been super, super fun. And, that like some of the exercises that I do with teenagers, I do with them, and they can just do them all day. Like there's no barrier. They don't have any like, what's that word? Like self consciousness about like doing something silly or like thinking up a silly idea. But like with teenagers, that's so shut down because it's such a vulnerable thing to be doing, that I love to like create a space where they feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. I mean, like as an example, I was working with a group of young people that a bunch of them were on a incarceration alternative program. So like rather than go to jail, they were in this program. We were painting a mural, and it was like weeks and weeks of work up to this point. But it was like this group of these young women, and they like had Disney Frozen on, and they were like singing Frozen, and they were painting, and I'm like, these are the toughest kids in downtown Seattle on any given Saturday night. They're like Third and Pike, just like kicking it. And here they are, they're acting like actual, like developmentally where teenagers really want to be, and to just be part of that, like creating a safe enough space that they can tap into that, to me is like enormous. And, it's lots of kids have that. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean the tough kids. Like there's kids who, their parents are like over scheduling everything in their life, and they're just like thinking about nothing but college. And I like working with those kids too, because then I'm like, let's just take a time out and you can like draw out like things that you think are cool. Like it doesn't even have to be any great meaning, like just what makes you excited about the world, and you can draw that.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be, just so fulfilling to be a part of.
Yeah, I love it.
I do art lessons too with my niece, but she's young. She's like 9, and real bossy, doesn't really listen to anything I say. Like, she was like using paints for pretty much the first time, and I was like telling her about like, these are acrylic, you can get them a little watery, you can make it flow a little bit better than you are. And she's like, no, I don't do that. And she's like, listen, I know how to paint too. All right, like it's just like it's not having it. Like so, she listens, but it takes a while to set in, and it's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
hard to
yeah.
get.
Yeah, she's the
But
Francis Bacon route.
yes, she's like whatever. But she's also not that. She is. She has a little bit of self consciousness, but like it hasn't totally set in yet, like it will in high school. I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You know, they say most adults stopped making art when they were somewhere in middle school.
Yeah,
Which makes sense, you know.
it
I
does.
think a lot of us know people who it's like, oh man, in fifth grade that kid could really draw, and then it's like you never saw him draw anything after that.
That was always actually my motivation because I was a horrible, horrible artist, basically from ages 5 to probably 20. I'm gonna guess. I was like always drawing, but it was always like I was that kid that like everyone would come up to the class and be like, "Oh, what are you drawing?" And they look at me and be like, "Oh, this is ugly. Like this is not good." And even when I got to college, I was not very good. And then I like really focused in, but that was my whole thing was there these kids who could naturally draw, especially in that cartoony style, like, oh, draw me this, and it's like, here you go, and everybody's really pumped. And then there was me who like couldn't do that at all, not good with caricatures or like anything quick. But if I sit down and work on it, I can get it right. And I just knew that I worked harder, and then I saw all those guys that had it easy, never have to actually work at their art and push it, and they just didn't have the drive, that I ended up getting because I had to put in a lot more hours to get there. Um, so I think it can be. It's like, yeah, I don't know if I think it is part of that. It's like if it's really easy, then like art seems easy, and like it is. That's one of the things with being self motivated is like you can push anything as far as you want. But it's up
Right.
to you to push it. Like there's nobody else there who's checking on you or telling you anything. It's like you've got to push yourself harder because you can't let it rest.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's there's such like a good parable of like how people come to like doing something really well, and like I feel like often it's like people who just naturally are born with it, and then there's people who had to like work so gosh dang hard to like get great at it, you know?
It's important at some point in your life to do that, I think, in whatever it is, to like have something you fucking suck at and work hard enough that you're good. And it doesn't matter what that is. I feel like that is attitude and doing it and seeing that you can do it is going to translate into whatever you come up against.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think recently for me that's been the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Ah,
I grew up. My brothers were both like literally my older brother was described by like a well-known teacher as like a prodigy and as a
wow.
flamenco guitarist like within like 2-3 years was playing like very high level flamenco guitar and um, had he made money at it I think he probably would have continued with it. He started in college at it and kind of realized that that's a pretty tough hustle and then
Yeah.
switched to economics but um, yeah, so I always was kind of like, ugh. And then my little brother was just as good, basically. So I was like, I'm never touching a guitar. And then recently I've been trying to learn one. And it's slow, and I have to work at it a lot, you know? And I have to, like, manage
Yeah.
my expectations around that, which is really difficult. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, like, it's good for me to, like, be in a creative practice where I'm struggling as somebody who teaches creative practice. To be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what it feels like. This is what it looks like. This is what that like I just want to put this thing down and like look away from it, you know.
Yeah. I bet that, I mean, yeah, we all need constant reminders in our life of that stuff because the farther you get from it, the farther you forget on how hard everything is and become insensitive to those things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like as a teacher, you know, I want to challenge all my students, but like they need to succeed too, you know. Like as a guitar player, like sometimes I need like a song with like a G, a C, and a D in it, so I can like just play it rather than like some crazy bar chord I'm not even close to playing, you know. And it's like I have assignments like that too. Like we might do something difficult one day, and then the next day it's going to be like something super fun that everybody's going to have success at.
Yeah. So the art that you're making now yourself, tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about like the direction you're heading in this program and what you're making and what you're thinking about.
Yeah, so 2020 was like a lot of public art projects. So I painted like 4 murals in 2020, and I really love the like community element to painting murals, and I really love I don't know. There's kind of like they're living things in a way. Like I think they're living in like as you create them, they kind of come together on display. As people see them happen, neighbors come out and people are walking by, and then there's like kind of a decay to them. Like especially the ones
Yeah.
that are up on the boarded buildings right now, and that's all kind of part of it, and I love that about it. And then I have a body of work that I'm working on, and it's kind of a departure for me. Like I said, I'd studied classical painting, which was very much like trying to create like the most beautiful image I could create, but not necessarily anything that had much substance to it. So this body of work is really like my own personal identity as like a biracial Chicano, Mexicano, Nuevo Mexicano, like just a lot of like kind of family stories that I think are important to tell, because I feel like one of the things that I'm thinking a lot about is like as an example, I got asked by a museum to do like a Day of the Dead piece, and it's like Oaxaca is such a small part of like the Latin American world, but like often like the museum, they're like, we need to have like a Mexican thing or like a Latino thing, so it'll be like this one very narrow idea of what that is. And I
Yeah.
feel like telling my story, and as other people tell what their unique story is, it creates a much like fuller picture of what that can look like. So I don't know. It's been interesting, and I think it's relevant. I think like the way my family got here is an important part of like the bigger dialogue about immigration that's happening. And I think I don't know. I just have lots of ideas that I feel like are very personal to me that can be brought into like bigger social issues that are happening. So I don't know. It's challenging. It's a very vulnerable place to be making art from, and I feel like I'm in a really good place to kind of have conversations around that.
I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and that's something yeah, especially because you're going through this program that's, made or set up by one of the Black Lives Matters creators, and just the idea of art activism. I'm always, I don't know, I'm always like two things beers into it sometimes when people want that painting. They want that painting made, but it's still not my voice in a lot of ways. And I probably put maybe too much of myself in there when it's a politic that I agree with. Uh, but like, I mean, yeah, we make these things. Should
Yeah.
they have more meaning? How important is that to have this like make the world better through art kind of outlook?
Yeah, it was interesting knowing that you and I were talking. I was like really thinking about that and like the context of your work. Like I know you did the 45 painting, which I
Yeah,
thought was brilliant. I thought that was such a brilliant two things.
well, thank
Um,
you.
but just thinking like more broadly, like how do you? I mean, I have my theories, but I'll reserve for now. But like, how do you feel like your work kind of is talking to bigger issues in the world?
Well, I've gotten a couple, especially this year. I think my art is a reflection of people, uh, and I think it's so inescapable this last year that I ended up doing a Black Lives Matter COVID-19 painting. Those were the two things being mashed up, where I did protesters and like tear gas is coming up with like viruses in it, and like there's like a Twitter bird in the background with a red tie. And I did that one. I did a Keen, the Big Eyes painter Keen,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
Keen and COVID-19, which was kind of like a Big Eyes nurse figure with snot coming out of her nose and a bunch of viruses behind her. And I did I just did a dancing nurses versus anti-maskers kind of thing. Um, And, you know, I used to say to people at the booth as just kind of a shortcut, you know, think of what are your two favorite things. And I kind of, my friend Courtney actually was boothing next to me, and he started talking to me about that. He's like, that's not how I thought of your idea. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's not really how I think of my idea either, but it's just an easy way to shortcut in conversation to get people to grasp the idea. But it isn't favorite things. It's just two things you want to see. And so sometimes people are politically minded and they do want to see. And I try my best. Luckily, I haven't gotten anything in yet that's like, you know, I want to see Rush Limbaugh and Hercules, you know.
Yeah,
like
right.
Well, I mean, I feel like I do have lines that I would not do, things that I would just say flat out no to. But I try to stay as open as possible and think of these things as reflections of people to get them, and keep myself out of the what and focused on the how. So I don't know. I appreciate being able to do that and be in that conversation. But it's not. I try not to be as much, you know. But I do. I feel it when I'm painting something that's like I'm trying to take seriously. I'm trying to figure out what that person's looking for, like an inspiration or a condemnation or what they're trying to get at, and try to be the vehicle for that.
Interesting. Okay. So like, got it. So I love that because I feel like any pop artist, which you work with pop culture, like you have to intersect with politics at some point, right? Like Andy Warhol painted like the Kennedy assassination because that was, if you're painting culture, that's what it was in the 60s. I was curious about the Hamburglar Saddam Hussein painting. Have you ever had any like, you know, somebody who's like a Baathist like show up and be like, what?
I know that one was really fun. I really loved it. And he got two of those, one with Hamburglar and Saddam Hussein, and then the next one was with Kim Jong-un and Colonel Sanders.
Oh, right.
And he's like planning on doing a series of fast food mascots and dictators. I think he wanted to do.
Is that me or you?
Trump. Oh, I think that's you. But
okay,
there you go.
Cool. I'm back.
But I'm interested. I like that. There's kind of an absurdity to it, but also there is like a big evil part of it. And I try to have them just like buds having fun, you know, like Saddam Hussein's like running with the burgers with the Hamburglar, or Kim Jong-un's ready to chicken fight on top of Colonel Sanders' shoulders. There is a politics to that. There is like a central idea of like these things are connected, and if you're like neither of them, I'm trying to necessarily paint in a great light. You know, like they're having fun, they're buds, but this guy murdered a whole bunch of people. Like,
I mean, it's interesting because it's about the people, but it's about our like us as Americans and like American pop culture's relationship to those dictators, those political figures, those, you know, enemies of the United States. And then to like put them right up against you know, fast food caricatures, you know what I mean?
Which may be if the most, because I believe America, especially as like a multicultural institution, has contributed so much great stuff. But honestly, our most lasting impact may be fast food on the rest of the world.
Oh shit!
Like,
yeah,
it really is. Like those, you go anywhere and there's a KFC or McDonald's or whatever, and people are going batshit over it. That like love it, and they love that they can go in there and get their food in like 2 seconds. Where even like in the UK, the kebab shops or whatever, you're like waiting longer to get your euro. So I mean, it's like that is so America is this like commercial fast food, eating garbage quickly for cheap.
Which like when you zoom out to like what all is wrapped up in that, I mean that's enormous. That's like colonialism. That's, you know, like our enormous waste in this country. It's like the trash that's created, like there's so many things that are kind of wrapped up in that are political. Like, they're just as political as like, is this dictator like, making their constituents like work to death in work camps? Like those things are equally political. And it's like, I don't know. I could just like really break down the Colonel Sanders and Kim Jong. Like here you have a country with like food insecurity, and here's like Colonel Sanders picking him up. You know what I mean? It's like there's actually a lot of legs to that piece. I really love it.
I mean, I'm always really happy when someone comes to me and talks about a series and like kind of like gives me. I mean, essentially that one's just really strong, and I think it has a lot of legs. I hope he keeps having me make them.
Yeah.
Honestly, like,
is there any talk of the next despot and?
I haven't yet. He at one point was talking to me a little bit about like Ronald McDonald, Donald Trump one, and I just honestly I don't want to ever paint Trump. I try my best not to steer things, but like I just like I don't want I did the red tie and the flag, and that's been as close as I want to get to that motherfucker.
Yeah. That that's the issue when you're painting somebody. You really kind of connect with them, and for better and worse. Really quick shout out to Dana and to Brandy and to Grace, who I've seen kind of pop up.
I know. Yeah, I haven't been doing the chat stuff as much as I probably should. Where I talk like, hi Dana, but also I think it was Teresa or somebody in there had a good comment about your teaching. Let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, being a teacher means you have the opportunity to learn a different way of thinking from every student. I think that's very true. Oh, it's 12 birds.
Yeah.
So
I 100% agree with that, and I think that's I feel privileged and really grateful because I mean truthfully this is true of any student, but I feel like I work with sharp kids like across the board. I work with kids that live in Medina. I go to the youth detention center and teach, and like across the board, like the young people that are alive right now are asked to do a lot of things, and I feel like I'm in awe of them regularly, and I'm really glad that I get to kind of experience life through their eyes and get to learn from them. Learn from them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wild thing, like where we draw our inspirations and our connections and all that sort of stuff. It's all over the place. I feel like if you're doing it right, you're like getting it from everywhere, especially from people that don't have these built-in institutional thoughts, like that haven't been in the game, that are just doing what comes out, Yeah. So the show, you were talking about a body of work that you're kind of building up and you're putting a lot of thought and effort into. So what is this going to be your senior show, you think?
Yeah, so it will be. So the talk right now is that it'll be at the Dairy Mart. And I also have a show. It's part of a group show coming up. Well, two of them. One will be a soil gallery in Seattle, and one will be at Seattle Art Museum whenever that happens.
Wow.
And so yeah, there's kind of some space for them, but I don't know. I think part of what I want to do with that body of work is there's 2 residencies I want to do. One of them is in North Carolina, where my dad's the MCC ALL grandpa's from, and then the other is in Mexico City. So ideally, these bodies of work help me kind of transition into the next thing.
Yeah.
To your point, we're always hustling right to that next thing.
Always got to have 3 or 4 next things going on.
What's your next product line rollout? I know you've done masks already, yeah?
Yeah, I had some fun masks. I was a little weirded out at first by masks, just because I felt like I don't necessarily want to profit off of pandemic. I don't know. It was just a little bit of a weird thing. But then I was like, you know what? These masks are like with us to stay. So like, let's make a couple cool designs. Yeah, that was the thing. I just finished up koozies, which I'm going to be sending out. I think I'm going to roll those out with I'm trying to get more people to join the Patreon. So I think I'm going to offer them up as like prizes for if you join the Patreon, get a free koozie. They are Shaq Danzig koozies. One side's Shaq and the other is Danzig. Who, for whatever reason, I just connected early on in the Thangs game. And they do seem like two sides of a coin. Like Danzig's a miserable little asshole, and Shaq's a giant, fun-loving kind of flat earther. I don't know. They're both kind of awesome.
Is he a flat earther?
I remember he was at one point. I don't know if he like changed it up, but I was like, "Oh, Shaq, what are you doing?" But I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're a basketball player." So I mean, well, you know. But they both are like awesome and assholes in their own way.
Yeah. When you were talking about doing big paintings, I was thinking about the photo cutout thing that you had done for a show a while back. That was your like 1-year anniversary of Two Things, right?
That was. Yeah, that was for the party on the Inkscape deck.
That's right. Actually, I don't know if Grace is still online, but Grace, her studio looks at that deck.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
what floor is she on?
But whatever that level is that third
Oh.
floor?
Oh, so she's like right outside the deck.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Literally the window that looks into that courtyard.
The Nate Gowdy, who I still keep in contact with, is in that building. He's up on the 4th, and he's on the 4th, and he looks down at the deck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, Urban Artworks, who I was speaking of, they're in the basement of that building. So in 2019, I was teaching in the fall there in the basement.
I love that building as far as like, I mean, amenities and view. I just was so bummed that it should have taken over when what's that one building died when the party art building.
Yeah, 619 Western.
Exactly. It really should have become that place, but there was already so many people in the building that were not artists. There was like yoga studios and architects and all this sort of stuff in there that had no interest in like forming a art community and doing openings and stuff like that. And then there's also just a lot of like I'll just say like Bellevue artists, people that like have enough money and are just kind of like, I'm going to come here and hang out and socialize, but I'm not actually even making art or, whatever.
Yeah.
They weren't in the hustle. So it was kind of like a bummer. But God, what a cool building. I mean, it's definitely haunted. There's a lot of bad shit that went on there. But those big courtyards, the view of the downtown, you're like right in the mix. You're right across the street from Wajimaya, which I miss a lot.
Yeah. Cool. You were like one of the like first dozen artists in that building, right?
Yeah. I was. I came in actually before it was even done, so it was really freaking creepy.
Yeah, I remember going to like one of your first openings there, and you walking us around in the middle of the night and being like, "Fuck this place! Like this is not a place I want to be." Because I mean, there were still cells. There were still prison cells. I think when we were walking around.
Yeah. I also knew I got in because I was next door at this place called Arc Studios, which was connected to the Larimore Project, which is a super rad gallery back in the day. And then, so like right when that closed down, I hit up Inkscape because I heard they might be turning into art studios. I was like, get me in here. And so they basically got me in one of the only rooms that was finished at that point, which was awesome. But yeah, it was so creepy, and there was like just beds and like the old security systems and stuff like that. It was like first floor was administration, second and third was like jail, and then fourth was where they kept all the money and guns that they took from people before they sent them out of the country. It's like big safes and stuff like that. It was just so weird.
It was a mint. They like minted money up there, right?
I would not be surprised.
Somebody told me. I think that's like, I don't know if there's a mint, but there was like some federal building that dealt with money up there. And the reason they did that is because like to break into it, you'd have to go through a prison.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I
mean, that fourth floor had these giant safes, like bank, vault, spin the wheel, like safes. It was freaking weird. I think
being in there now, you can just like energetically feel it is a very, very different space. Like, I remember hearing like all my kids in the basement, like we were gonna like walk for art walk, and they were just hanging out, and they were laughing, and it was echoing all the way down that hallway, and just being like, yeah, this is a totally different vibe than, you know, the first time I walked that hallway with that yellow line and the handprints and the feet and everything. So weird.
Yeah, it took a few years, but as it got busier in there and they just refurnished every part of it, yeah, it got a lot less creepy, but it's still, I got to, because I knew the building manager before, he took me up into the attic, which is like where all the like, and actually up onto the roof, which was super unsafe. But there's still like all this like old equipment and like all sort of stuff up there in the attic, and you see like down the elevator shafts and everything like that. And
holy cow.
Yeah. And that's where he said he was not like I don't know what the word would be, not a spooky guy. He's not a like ghosts, you know, he was like a very blue collar kind of New Jersey guy. But he was like, oh yeah, that's where I see some shit, is in that attic.
No way.
And I think that is the place that's still like that.
A really dark part of me wants to go up there and see it for myself.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of stuff coming up. So do you have the work, or you're still cranking it out, or you're gonna like you've
still
got
cranking
it
out? Yeah. You know, like social media is so tough, right? Because you want to like constantly be feeding the fire of content, but also there's something to be said about kind of having like a rollout. So I'm trying to weigh that right now, but yeah, lots more to come. So just installed a collaboration piece with my collaborator Aaron Shigaki, who we've collaborated on a couple murals now. But we were supposed to take a mural that was painted on boards. It was supposed to come down, and we were going to install it at Edmonds Community College. And then the boards never came down. So we had to kind of pivot. And then we're going to install them in the classrooms when it reopened. And then that didn't happen either. So we ended up doing like a window display. And so we have the mural, we kind of recreated it and printed it out. And it's hanging in the windows of the art building right now. So that's it's really exciting, and we're gonna have like a art talk around that. So I'm looking forward to that one coming up. And then I got a couple proposals out, so here's hoping one of them comes through. And then Aaron and I are actually collaborating on another mural that will happen this summer. So
fun.
Out in the pike, man.
I love mural work. I'm hoping to get some going out here during the spring.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I know, right? If we could get you out here, get the vaccines going, you know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so you know this, but for anyone,
oh shit, Scott, lost you for a minute there.
Oh, am I back?
You're back now.
Okay, yeah. So I have family in Boston, but if we could write for a grant that would pay travel expenses and materials, and then you and I could do something in Providence, that'd be awesome.
I know, right? Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, Providence is such a weird place. I'm not even sure how it works. You know, honestly, all this sort of stuff here. There's not a lot of arts organizations, surprisingly, because there's just not a lot of money in town. I don't know. There's not even that many murals, and the murals that are out here are kind of bad. But
there a taco shop that'll pay us some tacos to do one?
I know, right? That's what I want to start doing. Like, I went in today for lunch. I went into this place I've been eyeballing that's a soul food restaurant. Called, I think it's Taste of Soul. And I was like, I've been eyeballing. I've seen their prices. Like, you could get like a burger and fries for $6. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all up. So I finally went in today, and the dude, they have like little bits of art up, but plenty of room for something really awesome. And the dude who owns it, he pulls out this wireless microphone while he's grilling up my burger, and he just starts singing into it. I'm like, wait, what is that? He's like, I just love to sing. When I'm stressed out, when I'm just like doing stuff, I love to sing. So here, you know, and he just starts singing to me. It's just me and him hanging out in there. was kind of the best thing ever. And he just chat me up at like singing to some music that's on the radio while he's doing it. Finishes up my burger, sends me on my way. But I'm like, I should offer this guy, like, I will do, like, he had one painting. It was like a print of a painting that was like 30 years old, or not 30 years old, but like 10 years old. It's all faded, not in a nice frame or anything. And it's just not the best painting, but it's like a big MLK behind and then a Barack Obama in front. And I was like, pretty much, oh, that's like a two things. I feel like I can like describe this to this guy. And that's like some cool stuff I would love to do in a space like that. Especially, you know, if I could get $300 worth of burgers out of it, just run me a tab.
Well, so my big like learning on mural painting in 2020 is you can like, you can refill. They sell like big thick markers that are empty, and then you can fill them with whatever you colors. And that has sped up my mural painting process so much to be able to just get a marker and put like clean lines down. Whereas like if you've ever tried to do that with a brush, to me it's tricky because it, you know, it will go and then it runs out of paint and then it's streaky and then you gotta like, so instead of like just doing a line, you end up kind of like, you know, working it all the way down. With a marker, you could just, you just mass everything in, outline it with the marker, and it's like done.
Wow. Yeah. That's it. And it's acrylic that comes out?
Yeah, so you can buy them and they're filled with acrylic, or you can just fill it with whatever you want. Like golden fluid acrylics work great in them.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, that would be good for that sort of stuff.
Totally. Yeah, you could knock one out real quick.
Yeah, just get it in there. I mean, honestly, like I feel like I've got a pretty good process for getting stuff onto any surface pretty quickly, just from what I do, my process to get my sketches onto my canvases. But it's just like finding the mural work, getting in line for the mural work, all that sort of stuff is just like the hard part. I was so jealous when pandemic hit and all you guys, I'm looking out there and like everybody in Seattle's like, I just fucking showed up. Painted this stuff on.
I did a bunch of them, but there were like a couple artists. Like there's a guy Dosfi who I really love his work. He probably did 20. Like I'm not even exaggerating. Like he was just knocking them out left and right. And his process kind of looks like scratchboard, if you remember doing scratchboard back in the day. But he'll just hit the wall with like a real thin coat of black paint. The second it dries, and it was summer, so it was drying quickly, he comes over with a white marker and just basically sketches it, and he's done. Walks away.
I'm very against the idea of free art, just because I feel like that's a burden that's pushed on us that's not pushed on many other industries of just like this. You should love it, and you should be willing to do it for free, or else it's worthless. And you're like, well, okay, but we're kind of starving a generation of artists then of their ability to do art full time. But anyways, I think that one thing that is amazing is, you know, people hate graffiti in a lot of places, not so much in Seattle, but for whatever reason, they're like really hate it when somebody draws a big dick on Bank of America's window or something, but then they're like inundated with these awful billboards with terrible, that look stupid and are like visually offensive, like, you know, 20 hours of the day, you know, these public spaces that are taken by that sort of stuff. Just never understood that disconnect of like, okay, you hate that because somebody just did it, but like you're okay with like every bus being covered, every bus stop, every place you look covered because somebody paid for it. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I vividly remember being in your studio looking out at like a pro-life billboard that was like right at, like you were at the same height as it. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It was up for a long time. It was weird.
Yeah. It was like life begins at conception or something. It was like, I mean, this is every bit as like, to me, it's as offensive as a big dick on well, it's less offensive. Yeah. I'm kind of pro big dick on Bank of America.
When I go like places and I see good graffiti, if I'm in like New York or like Europe or where people are like really visually working on things, you can tell there's a lot of complexity to it. I'm like, I would much rather look at this than fucking some person chowing down on a Big Mac, you know? Yeah. I just wish that culture was everywhere. Because honestly, like when I'm vending and people come to the print of the Betty Page Divine mural, like especially out here on the East Coast, people are always like, somebody let you do that to their house? And I'm like, not only did they, but like the entire community loves it. Like people were coming out and throwing me beers while I'm working on it because they're so pumped on it. I'm like, it's only what you make of it. It's all up in your head if you think this is acceptable and that's not.
Yeah. I want you to get a house in Providence. I think that would be amazing.
I know. Well, you work on Brandy. I'm trying to paint the outside of our house, and I just get no's from her. So, yeah.
Brandy want for me.
No, I mean, yeah, it would be cool. I would love to do stuff for businesses down. One of the best parts about Rhode Island is, like, for whatever reason, whether it's the corruption or the poverty here or whatever, like Rhode Island never seems to have gotten that big wave in like the 90s and 2000s of like all the chains. There's like no, you go to like these places even outside of Providence, it's like smaller Rhode Island towns, and there's not like everywhere else you go, like if you go down to Southgate or something, it's just the same Chipotle, Michael's, whatever, in the same little area. But in Providence, you go there and it's all weird ass stores that don't even make any sense. There's no change.
Where do you buy your skinny jeans? No Urban Outfitters.
I don't think they exist here. People are wearing like sweatpants in public more often. But it's like, so I am all aboard. I think it's like so ready for some cool mural work that like, it's a lot easier to explain to like, New England seafood or like something like that, I want to do a giant lobster playing a rock guitar on the side of your building than it is to go to Urban Outfitters and be like, I want to paint Jeff Bezos smoking a bong, or something like that.
Yes. Oh my God. I love the idea of you doing like a crab shack.
I would love to do that. My biggest idea for a mural that I want to do someday is I want to spend a week interviewing people on the street, the people that live in the neighborhood, work in the neighborhood, and commute through the neighborhood that the mural will be in, and interviewing them like with a series of 30 questions or something, and then taking that interview, whittling all that down to the ones that people all said to 2 ideas, and then turning that into a mural. That's like an idea I've had for a long time, but I haven't been able to sell to anybody.
Yeah. Nice. Oh my God. Well, we need to talk more offline about this. I just did a proposal for a project that is essentially that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the city is digging a huge storm drain because currently when the storm water comes, the storm drains overfill, and then they just like puke sewage and stormwater out into Lake Union and into the Puget Sound because there's nowhere for it to collect. So they're digging like a big collection tunnel. And anyways, there's going to be a lot of construction. So during the construction process, the city's commissioning artists for the fences that they put around the construction site. But that's my idea, is actually to have like a series of prompts about like what does having clean water mean to you, and like what significance is, like why is this important to you as a community member, and then like compiling that information into the mural. So
it's a great idea. I mean, that a mural is dealing with the environment, whether you want it to or not. So Absolutely. It should speak to the environment.
Absolutely. And it's a community, it's a community project. So like to have the community as part of it, I think it's really just makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. Well, yeah, we'll speak offline about such things.
Yeah, I think we could organize this.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, like, one thing Seattle taught me too is if you're a business and you have an awesome mural in your place, especially with social media being the way it is, like, what was it? Adaball just had that Swayze in there that for when Adaball opened up, you see like 1 billion people taking selfies with Swayze. Or Jupiter has the rad cat painting by the bathroom or whatever. Like, if you put good art, good murals in your business, there's a benefit to that in today. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
and one of the tragedies of 2020 was Neon Boots have this amazing Dolly Parton, and then
yeah.
like I don't think anyone even saw it.
I never got in there before I left. It was just kind of coming up, and I was hearing the name when we were leaving, and so I never did. But God, all the pictures made that place look really amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So during 2020, I did Schultz's Bar and Grill, which is this like German American pub in the U District that's been there for a long time. But they commissioned me to do. I did a bunch of murals in there, and it was actually what was really cool about it is it was through Urban Artworks. So Urban Artworks hires their teaching artists to do murals also, and then
Gotcha.
I got paid very well for it, but also the Urban Artworks gets a cut, and that helps fund their youth program. So it's like a win-win for the business, the program, and then the artists. But I did like a polka party scene, and the polka party, you know, because it was German, so that was like just fun. And I incorporated, so they have these two taxidermied pigs in the bar, so I incorporated them into this thing, and like everyone liked the sketch, and we were like moving forward, and then like, you know, George Floyd and like the uprising of 2020 kind of happened. It was like, man, do we want to like have like a bunch of like white German people having a hoedown like in here? And so it's like, you know, I don't think the right answer is to just like put like people of color and lederhosen and like inject them. Like it just seems insincere. And I was like, you know, maybe there's like a Seattle, like maybe we could put some Sonics or something, but like I don't want to just like, that seems weird to just put them in there. Like if there's something like really organic. And then we realized like, well, Bruce Lee's school was like right up the street from here, and Jimi Hendrix lived in the U District at one point. So we put Bruce Lee and Jimi Hendrix as part of the polka party, which plays into the story of that place, because it's not really a German bar. It's a Seattle German bar, you know. Like,
yeah.
people from Germany go there and they're grossly offended, like with how things are done there, you know. So it really grounded it, and I think it's going to be one of those, like, my hope for it is that, like, you know, people will be like, so it's in the men's room, that like people will be like, you know, ladies will be in there taking selfies with it because it's just like so cool. You got to like go in there and get like a photo with it, or see it, or whatever you want to do. But you know, like where it becomes a destination. If you visit Schultz's, you got to like see the mural in the bathroom.
I mean, it's a benefit. I mean, it's great. It increases the vibe. Like it just sets a tone. A good mural in a business is like, I think, rad. I think I'm happy to be a part of anything like that when I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like art, and I feel like this is what I love about your art. It's always about like storytelling, right? And so like, as of like business, like if you're Arna Chipotle, how do you tell the story of that place? And like those sorts of things really, I think, add to the story of a business, of somebody's home, you know, of this, like a city. Like if you're doing a mural, like that's part of the story of the city. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in public art is fun because you get immediate reactions and then long-term reactions. I still get tagged every once in a while when somebody finds the Betty Page mural and takes a picture with it. And it's kind of nice to see it exist that long, because most of the time you're just sending it out into the world and you really have no clue what happens to most of it. Yeah. So public art has these benefits to it. It's just like this living, breathing thing that you put out there and you kind of get to watch grow up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, hopefully post-pandemic, I'll be able to get back to Seattle and get up to drink with Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure. We'll toast to Jimmy and Bruce.
For sure. All right. Well, I have learned that if my phone dies during these, then it erases the whole thing. So I always try to end on a good note. But this has been great, Scott. Great to hear about your program and your work. I'm excited to see what comes out.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. It's fun to have a chat. And I don't know, we talk about, mostly Matt and I talk about MMA. So this is nice to talk about art for a change.
Yeah. Oh, and I did just watch the greatest video today, which was Joe Loazone released footage of him and Dan, his younger brother, Dan Loazone, who is like the youngest fighter to ever fight in the UFC, kind of a washout. Them fighting at a family barbecue in Massachusetts. And it's like legit MMA fight with all these like neighbors just sitting around barbecuing and stuff.
Please
It
tell
was
me
kind of
somebody threw a
amazing.
hot dog at them. At some point.
It was. I was gonna put that in the fight folks thing, so I'll probably do that later so you can see it. Oh, and I'll show you here. I'll show you the scale of these paintings real quick before we
Oh
get out
yeah.
of here. This is my poop mural, which I hope to do more of. You can see that's every painting I've ever done made
I
into a
love
giant.
it. I love it.
All right, let's see here. You can see these two.
Oh
They're
damn.
big.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You are
Yeah.
going big.
This is the Bob's Burgers.
Oh man, I love it.
I'm really proud of this. You can't really see because fluorescent lighting, but that's all purples, yellows, whites, and blacks. And so like there's this great energy that comes out of those. And then here's the poly that's coming along very nicely.
Hell to the yeah.
Yeah. So soon enough, I'll be doing these, finish these up, and they'll be out in the world. Actually, oh yeah, and the one thing I am doing after the koozies is I'm doing puzzles. And the Bob's Burgers one is I was waiting to finish that up, and then I'm sending it off tomorrow to the puzzle maker who'll be doing that one. And Last Supper Taco Bell, and Randy Savage, Never Ending Story. And I think the Sloth Van Gogh is going to be my fourth one that I'm doing for.
Nice. When are those going to be available?
I'll probably just start pre-orders right away so that hopefully I can, make the money to pay for them.
Yeah. Good to know. I know somebody right away I'll buy one for. So.
All right. All right, Scott. Been great catching up.
You too,
I'll chat with you later. Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody in the chat, too.
Yeah, bye, guys.